This app changes everything. Gross Eel Connect is designed to provide you with a mobile web page with info on meetings, events, alerts, things to do, maps, and recreation. All of this information in the palm of your hands. Go to the Apple Store and Google Play and download.
Call the meeting to order at, let's make it 7:52. And let's begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Now it's working. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to welcome everyone to the October 9th business meeting of the Grosse Ile Township Board of Trustees. I'm going to call the meeting to order at, let's make it 7:46. And let's begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And I'll start with a correction to my previous statement. We actually called the public meeting, the business meeting, to order at 6:26 with the intent of going to closed session. The board opted not to go to closed session. We conducted a discussion item. The door was open. We did have at least one member of the public there for most or all of the discussion, and the discussion will continue in future meetings. So, yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. That's what I meant to say, but thanks. She's good. Okay, with that, okay, we're all here, and we're talking about offer additions or deletions to tonight's agenda. With none offered, those in favor of approving the agenda as published, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None offered. The agenda stands as published. And we're moving on to, since we've established the agenda, public comment on tonight's agenda as published. Mrs. Walker. First time?
Yeah.
Hello.
Mrs. Walker.
Kathy Walker, Thorpe Court. I have two questions. I read your audit report, and I have two questions. And I just want to know the answers. I understand that the splash park, we had the $20,000 that we had to forfeit and the legal fees. I understand that went to general fund. Is that correct? Yes or no? We're on the books. If it is yes, why didn't it go to rec? So it's a board decision. Oh, okay. And then secondly, I understand, and again, if I'm wrong, let me know, that there's a suspense account that is for the skating rink with 47.
Okay, Mrs. Walker, this is public comment.
Yeah.
I've a number of times. This is a public question and answer.
Well,
if you want, Mrs. Walker, if you want to probe for information, let us know ahead of time, and Mrs. Darzniak can prepare the answer and have a cogent answer rather than having her expecting her during public comment to look around and you'll get a more precise answer that way.
All I need is a
Continue.
yes or no. But thank you for pointing that out again. When will it be cleared? Because my understanding, it's been around for a couple of years. I'm just wondering when it will be cleared. When will it be cleared? This budget, next budget, and will it be recorded as an asset or an expense? Which is it most likely? That's all.
43,000.
Yeah.
Alone.
We'll decide that when the board decides it.
Right. There will be more discussion on that.
Tim is working very hard on it.
I'm not saying. I'm just wondering a suspense item and accounting principles.
Yep.
I'm not an accountant, but I kind of know one pretty well, and I thought it would be within a year or so. Thank you.
Plan.
Other public comment? Okay. All right. With none offered, we'll move on to our presentation tonight, our township audit. And Ms. Darzniak, Mr. George, are you going to participate or just? Perfect.
Good answer.
Good answer.
Good
Yeah.
answer.
It's Ann's fault.
Meeting. Mike George is here from Yo and Yo, and I'll just go over the presentation as normal, and then if there's any questions or if anything he can clarify, he'd be more than likely to come help me do that. So we're just going to go through the same presentation. I know this gets boring after a while, but if anyone thinks of anything else they'd like to see other than my slides ahead of time, we can always prepare some different slides. I try to do it as user-friendly as I can for a 82-page audit of very detailed information. But all right, so here it goes. All right, again, the auditor's opinion. It's called a clean opinion, and it says, in our opinion, the financial statements present fairly, in all material respects, the financial position of the governmental activities and business type activities the audited discretely presented component units, each major fund, and the aggregate remaining fund information of the Township of Roseville, Michigan, as of March 31st, 2017, and the respective changes in the financial position of cash flows were applicable, therefore, for the year ended in conformity with accounting principles generally accepted in the United States of America. So what this means is, based on our standards as accountants, everything is done in accordance with those principles, and this is the opinion that is given across the nation of once an audit is done. The second one we're just going to go into again, where are we at as far as taxable values. Obviously 2010 was our big year. We were up over 600 million, and now we could see in 2011 that's where our big declines were, and in 2016 they start to go up. Again, taxable value is based on the state of Michigan, what our taxable values is and how much that's going to go up a year. Again, with Proposal A, it's subject to inflation. Over the last year, our taxable value went up by a little over 1%. So it's not coming back. It's coming back slowly and fell very quickly. The next slide is our township millages. So what this represents is, if you look since 2011 to 2016, in 2013 to 2014, the millages actually went down because we paid off our public safety debt of a 0.35, and 14 and 15 stayed the same, and in 16, our millage rate went up due to the bike path maintenance. So our taxable values and all the revenues that we collect is basically based on our taxable value and what the voter people vote on as our millages. So we as a township can't just dramatically raise our taxes or raise our revenue. We're kind of got our hands tied from the state of what we're allowed and from the people of what they vote on. So we don't have this ability to just raise money anytime we want to. Which would be nice, but we can't. I have a money tree in my room, but it just doesn't do as much as I thought it would. So the next one, you can see how much taxes is raised by those two equations. This is all we get to work with. We get approximately a majority of our tax money. So our total tax revenue brings a little over $9 million. And that raised about $189,000, which isn't a lot from year to year, but that's based on your taxable value and what we just looked at and the millages.
That was 189 increase.
Yep, overall.
Prior.
Yep, which is only about 2% across the board. Yes, it does. It makes it look like it's more, and so did the levies. When I looked, I'm like, wait a minute, it's not a big difference from, it just makes it look like it is. All right, another big thing, this is where everyone focuses their attention on, obviously, is employee costs. And why is that? Because we provide a service. We're not making cars, we're not making widgets, we provide a service, and that's what we pay for as residents. Whether it be for the DPW, whether it be for rec, whether it be for administration, police, fire, that's what we do. And this is like, that's why everyone's concentrated on what are these employees' costs, what are these employee costs. If we look since 2013, as far as wages, that will be the green bar. The wages went from 2013 to 3.2 million, and in 2017, they're at 3.5 million. There was a jump last year. If you look like from, 15 and 16, it was about the same. And then in 17, it went up a little bit because we had personnel in the police department retire. When someone retires, there's a big payout for that person. And also there was an increase in overtime within the police department, and we'll discuss that because of unforeseen circumstances. So that was that. If you look at our health care has pretty much stayed flat from 1.3 to 1.4. So the last one went up a little bit. And health care is hard to judge because if someone gets married, if the fire department adds somebody, it's not like, oh, here it's just raising up by this percentage. If someone gets married, it goes up. If someone quits or whatever goes, and then you hire a family who was a single person. So those numbers come into play when you're talking about healthcare. But in general, healthcare in the last year from 16 to 17, healthcare, the township employees will be subject to a cap. So there's a hard cap on our health care, which only allows, from the township's perspective, at last year was an increase of 2.5% of health care. Whatever health care goes up beyond that, the employee has to pay for it. So the township is, in a sense, protected at a 2.5% increase. But also it looks bigger than that because of, like I said, just the difference in dynamics of the people involved in the pot. And finally, our retirement, actually from last year to this year, I'm like, oh, it actually went down. Well, what had happened is when we closed a big unit in the pension for the police department, it capped it. And then now it's going to raise at a level instead of an unknown level based on a percentage of, like, if there's a lot of overtime in the police department, we were paying like 35% on that overtime. So what has happened when we closed the pension system for the police department and open a new one when they're with a lower multiplier, we capped out, so it actually stayed the same over the last year. So I'm assuming they'll catch up with that, and it should go up next year because they're also, as we talked about, the pension cost. They are shrinking the amount of time of amortization. So we're at about a 22-year amortization period to pay off our unfunded liability. So actually, when they cap these older people, it actually is a better. It's actually a better budgeting tool because we have a number from year to year instead of it just going out automatically based on wages.
And Ann, that amortization, it's important, I think, to
Yes.
note. Every year it's going to be, they're knocking a year off.
That's
they want
correct.
to get down to 15 years. We're at 22.
Yeah.
So every year for
it's
the
gonna
next
come up
7
over.
years, it's going down, which means our cost goes up.
Yeah. Yep, it's based on arbitrary decision of MERS. The actuarial, yep. To shrink stuff. It's more of a MERS once communities to be funded. Right now. But I don't want that. Oops, I'm really screwy. Okay, go fast. My clicker. Okay, sorry. Okay. Obviously, when you look at, when you think of the reality of this is a day in time. You know, when you think of the budget's constantly moving, numbers are constantly moving. At the end of the day, this is 1 day in time. So we're comparing 1 day in March of 16 to 1 day in March of 17. So we're going to look at the fund balances. Basically, fund balance is cash. Where are we? If you look at the recreation department, last year we had a fund balance of $226,000. And this comes into play a lot in this audit because that was because of the fire. So when the fire happened, it was recorded as revenue for proceeds and expenses for the expense part of it. So all in all, it was a net. So what had happened at the end of the day, we had like $856,000 over a 2-year period. So we recognized more proceeds last year and spent more proceeds in this year. So that's distorting the fund balance of rec. But at the end of the day, fund balance of rec is about $8,000. And that's been consistent over the last couple of years. It's kind of just breaking even. So that's the reason for the difference in the recreation department fund balance. The farm is just from cell towers. It pretty much remains stable. We get some money in and we take care of maintenance. Library, actually with the library with Trenton, and when we combine the library, it really has been saving money, and you'll see your millages go down this year on your tax bill because we don't need to collect as much. We're actually saving an extensive amount of money by doing that, by getting out of Wayne County. Next is the bike path. That's just, oh, I didn't even touch it. It can't be a touch screen, is it? The bike path is that new bike path millage, so the money's been collecting in there so we can reduce some of the resurfacing. Drainage pretty much stays the same. Roads looks funny because of accounting standards. Our fund balance at the end of last year was $95,000. The end of this year, it's negative 43, but the reason for that, with accounting standards, there's been new GASBs that changes how we do fund balance. I had, as we were talking, we've talked about it before, there was a $500,000 receivable from the county that didn't come in 60 days prior. So if you look in the statements, it's defined as a deferred outflow or inflow. So it changes the fund balance. So actually, at 90 days after year end, we got the money and it's all back to normal. So that's why I say it's kind of funny. It's one day and you can't explain what's happening, but I'm showing you that one day in time. But actually, we got the money and it's all
Balance today is a lot higher.
Yes, today is a lot higher.
It's a plus,
yes.
not a minus.
Correct. Yep.
We got two $500,000 payments over 2
Yeah, 2 years. So that was kind of goofy too. And then you got open space, which is just the purchase money and the maintenance money that's in there. Public safety building, that's just from the cell tower money, that there's money available to do things at this public safety building. There is money in the, Joe always talks about spending money through his drug enforcement forfeiture funds, and that's where that money is. The fire operating, pretty much, I said, stays the same. The fire equipment, that's usually used, what Duncan likes to do. I think he's getting prepared to buy a new ambulance, so he gets the money so we don't got to go out and borrow. He accumulates over a couple of years and then he buys the equipment, so we don't have to finance it. So that money's in there for that truck.
And
Yeah.
just going back over.
Oh, yeah.
That is a total of 2 different accounts.
That's yes. The purchase amount is still about 500, and the rest is the maintenance that's sitting there, and it's broken up. Okay, then we're going to look at, these are more the service funds that we pay for services. That is not tax-based portion of it. So if you look at the water has gone up about 18%. And the reason for that is just more use in water. And last year we did raise the rates 9.375%. So this year we only raised them 3%, but we're talking the previous year was about 9% that we raised water rates. Yeah. Yep, it was about 5.3% we readjusted. Yep. Yep, to make it work. That's correct. You brought that up. Yep, and I have that in my notes. So sewer was the same, and he does listen. Refuse rates went down 5.3% because we adjusted those to make the water rate to equivalent. We don't need to make money in the refuse. We just want to pay for the service. As far as airport revenues went up. Commerce Park went down because we lost a big tenant in the Commerce Park. So that did have an effect on the airport. And then fuel farm, fuel sales went up because gas started to go up a little bit. So that's just tat for tat. If we look at the Gulf over the last year, not this previous season, but the season before, it went down about 7.8%, which is about $10,000. I mean, those numbers look so big, but it's about $10,000. Marina went up a little bit, and the pool went up just a little bit too. So, yeah, it's a revenue side. As far as long-term debt, this is all the debt that we have outstanding. If you look at public safety building that's been paid off, the building authority really is just the township hall that we're sitting in, and the recreation, the restaurant. If we look at their special assessment bonds, compensated absences are basically when everyone leaves what we owe out to them. We do have $300,000 set aside for that activity, so we do have that available. Yeah. Oh.
What can you help me? The millage in 2025
Yeah, well, yeah.
That's when it expires?
Yeah, that's when the Township Hall will be done and the rec
That
building.
payback each year is what total?
About $60,000.
And it comes out of the rec budget?
The $60,000 that's the transfer we've been doing that's come out of general fund.
Okay.
So that's the big controversy is where that should come out to. But the general fund is where we've been taking it out of.
You know where I'm going?
Yeah. So, and then then the notes, the tax sewer system, that was the original $40 million for the sewer separation project. We're more than halfway through, so I'm getting happy. Maybe I'll see that one go away in my career here. Can't wait. Capital improvement bonds, we just issued in that line item. We just recently issued in the past year a note for $6.5 million to do East River and West River for 20 years at 2.54%. So we have already did East River. We need to bill up for West River. We're looking at doing West River. So that will complete for both water mains, not roads. Those are water mains that will complete the loop around the island. So that was, so the money's sitting there waiting for that project to go through.
That project is set to be done in 2018.
Yep. The judgment bond, that is a tax levy for, again, the sewer separation, the balance of that was in there, that we had a millage on. Nothing else there. Brownfield, downtown development will be, brownfield's done, downtown development will be done. This is our final payment for a total of almost $37 million. Actual principal and interest a year is a little over, 4.7 million. Our net pension liability is about 13 million, and our unfunded, the 13 million changes every year. I get a little discouraged at this number, and we talk about it all the time, but last year it was like 12 million. Now it's at 13 million, and we've done things to make it better. We've changed benefits. I mean, the interest rate has been booming, so that should have helped. The year thing went through, so at the end of the day, it is a number that we have out there, and we are chipping away at it. It's not going to didn't happen overnight. It's not going to go away overnight. As far as the unfunded other pension employment benefit, that's been the same year for the pension. They do an actuary on every year, so we have a new actuary every year, and they change assumptions every year. So people stopped living to 80, now they're living to 90. The interest rate they assumed was at 8%, now it's at 7.5%. So that's a constantly moving thing. As far as the post-employment benefits, which is health care, that's been the same number for 3 years. An actuary has to be done every 3 years, and we're going to get that done now. Like I said, we've also made changes to that, so that hopefully that number should come down because we're no longer giving benefits as long to new hires. So that will be done this year, and that number should change next year. It's every 3 years. All right, that kind of goes over the whole thing. Now we're going to concentrate a little bit on general fund. So if we look at the general fund, if we just look at taxes, the sheet I showed you before, you get where our taxes were 3.2, now they're up to $3.4 million. Other revenue pretty much stays the same, and what that is, it's basically state shared revenue, it's cell tower money, it's building department money. So that makes up the 1.9, and we'll go over some of the major one of those in the next spreadsheets. Obviously, in general fund, a biggest portion of general fund is the police department. So you can see the numbers from the police department, 2.9 to 3.3, and if you look at where we're at, so in 2013, and others, obviously all administration, that makes up the difference. If we look over the last excess of fund bill or revenue over expenditures in 2013 is 93, 26. Those are pretty much breaking even. Last year at negative 274. The current year at audit is 252. There were a couple things that we budgeted like 190. The biggest thing that happened as far as we had to report two things of being over budgeted. One was the police department. We were over budget by about $93,000. And the reason for that was there were 3 people, officers, on long-term disability for a majority of the year. So you have 3 officers gone at any one time, and then 2 retired, which needed a training program about 3 months of them being on their own. So those situations in itself caused overtime to be like $93,000. If that had not happened, we would have been well under the budget amount. But some things come up, and that's what fund balance is for, that are not in our control. So that was a lot of it. So at the end of the day, bless you. So at the end of the day, if you look at fund balance, it's 2.3, so we almost have $2.4 million still in the bank at the end of the day. And so that's a little over 50% of a fund balance. The industry standard is about 15 to 25. You don't want that to fall below 25%. So it's there. And I was thinking the other day, we don't want to make money. We kind of just want to break even. So we're within 2% of breaking. It's of the whole picture. So it's not like we're trying to make money, because at the end of the day, if I had $1 million too much, what would I say then? We're not doing something right, because why am I sitting on $1 million more every year? So you look at it and you're like, oh, you don't want to see those negatives, but it's not a huge percent in the overall factor of almost a $6 million budget. That kind of puts it in perspective, and goes, oh, I don't want to see these numbers. I don't want to see. Well, I don't want to see them either, but we don't have a lot of means for revenue. If you look at our revenue, so basically we live on property taxes. This is all general fund. A little bit of interest income. Our state shared revenue is $862,000, and then the building department is $563,000. And we don't always want to talk gloom and doom. So the actual building department last year, we're still at 13 new home constructions at a value of $5.5 million. So this building is still coming. It's not stopped. They're still busy down there. If we look at so here's our revenue. Again, revenue went up about $85,000 in the scheme of things for general fund for the tax revenue, which isn't a lot based on, but it's pretty much staying the same. And then if you look at state shared revenue, it actually went up $43,000. So with taxes and the economy doing well, it's actually through sales tax and stuff, it's actually coming back to us slowly. And if you look at expenditures, same graphs we've seen before. This is what makes up the general fund. Obviously, police department's 59%. Got administration, court costs, finance, professional services, community development, communication, treasurer. So basically, it covers this whole office, as well as buildings and grounds, and then the police department. Finally, here's our thing. If you look at the revenues, like we putting it all together, this is our general fund. If we look at revenues, kind of gone up a little bit. Expenditures pretty much gone up a little bit. And our fund balance was pretty, since 2012, it has fallen. But it's just the times that we're in right now with the taxes going down so low, with the taxable value. Other than that, does anyone have any questions, or if Mike wants to come up, if there's anything that... I do have budgets available. They will be on, the audit available. It will be online, and we can also print them off if anyone needs them.
I just want to say one thing. Yeah, the only fund that was in deficit was that road improvement fund, and that was that 60-day rule that Anna talked about before. So it's just in the old days, you could book you can't book a receivable, anything that you receive money 60 days past the end of the year. So the money came in after the 60 days, so you can't put it on the books. but you did get it, so that's not a problem.
At least it came.
It's there.
It's there now. It's there now. It's there now. The only thing, we're auditors, so we look at the fund balance quite a bit. Or we like to look at it at the end. And, you have had 3 years of decrease, so I think you have to be aware that it's going down, and you have to be mindful of that because you don't want to get to that point where it gets critical and then you have to make cuts that you don't want to make. So I think you have to just tighten them out a little bit. And you're fine where you're at, but I think, break even is a good thing. So I think, that would be a good thing for to come in here, try to break even the most you can, because if you get under that $2 million, then your expenditures are almost $6 million, so then you're at a third, and you're starting to get to as Ann said, at 25% is sort of the standard. So it's good to be above the standard when it comes to fund balance. But I think that's something you got to watch for. We just had a couple comments in our letter. One was about policies, which I know that you're working on. And I think the other one, what was the other one, Ann? I got that here.
Bank recs.
The bank reconciliations, they're being reviewed, but there was no signature on the bank rec, so we just, we're a ticket tie, we're auditors, so we said, oh, well, you didn't sign off. So it's just a thing that we want you to sign. We know that it's being done. We don't have an issue with it, but again, we just need. It's good to have, for control purposes, that somebody signed off on it, that it was reviewed. Other than that, everything went pretty well.
One other thing that I mentioned to Ann was that we are under the Great Lakes Water Authority. We're not under the City of Detroit. We're not under the City of Detroit Water Authority.
That's a Great Lakes Authority, right?
A couple things. You indicated in your matters for management's consideration, I read through the whole report. Feeling I got was that you felt the staff was very cooperative and you had no problems meeting with anybody or getting information. Is that correct?
Correct, yeah. There was no disagreements with management, anything of that sort. Everything went fine.
You did indicate that in the policies and procedures, there were internal control policies and procedures that were outdated. Do you have any model plans or anything you'd recommend? The township manager and Mr. Budney and I have been working on policies and procedures since probably the beginning of March, mid-March, and it is tedious, it is tough, and we're looking for anything that we can do to improve the township. Do you have anything you'd recommend?
I could go back to our government team and see what they have. We deal with a lot of townships and cities, and so they're all over. Policies are all over the place, but we can.
Yeah, I mean, everything's worth looking at, and you pick something here and something there, and we're going to be discussing with every manager what they'd like or what their thoughts are on it. Absolutely anything that can help us along.
What I'll do is I'll talk to our government team, and then I'll pass them along to Ann, and she can forward them to you.
That'd be perfect. Thank you.
Right.
Other questions, comments for Mr. George? Fran? Mrs. Darsney? Oh.
Excellent.
Nice job,
Thanks
Ann.
for the presentation. Thank you. Okay, with that, let's move on to the consent agenda. Mr. Treasurer.
Mr. Supervisor, I'd like to make a motion to approve consent agenda 17-044, which is the meeting of the regular minutes of September 25th. Is that right?
Yes.
And approval of the check register through October 6, 2017.
Support.
Okay, moved by Treasurer, seconded by Trustee Budney. Any discussion on the minutes of the previous meeting?
None here.
None offered. Those. Pardon?
No.
None offered. Those in favor of approving the minutes as published, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None offered. Thank you. Action items. Acceptance of Township Audit Report.
Mr. Supervisor, I'd like to make a motion to accept the Township's of Grosse Seal's financial audit report with supplemental information for the fiscal year ending March 31st, 2017, as just presented.
Support.
Okay, moved by Treasurer Van Oss, seconded by Trustee Budney to approve the report just presented. Any questions, comments from the board? Shouldn't be, because we just had the opportunity. Okay, with that, those in favor of accepting the Township of Grosse Seal financial audit report with supplemental information for the fiscal year ending March 31st, 2017 as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None offered. That passes. Thank you. Move on to DBA appeals resignation.
Yes, I would. With regret, I have motion to accept the resignation of Robert Pierce from the Zoning Board of Appeals.
Okay, I'll second that that request.
Okay.
So moved by Trustee Budney, seconded by Supervisor Loftus.
A little background. Mr. Pierce turned in his resignation after serving on the Zoning Board of Appeals for over 15 years. The last 3 years he served as secretary. We appreciate his time, efforts, dedication, hard work, serving with the DBA, and wish him the best of luck in the future. I have had the pleasure of sitting next to Mr. Pierce at on the Zoning Board of Appeals for the last 6 years, and I will, and the board will miss his insight. He was very, very helpful on the appeals, and I understand he's moving away. That's why he had to resign. So it wasn't for our lack of zoning appeals this year. It was due to him moving off the island. Good luck, Bob.
Good luck, Bob. All right. With that, those in favor of accepting with regret accepting the resignation of Mr. Robert Pierce from the Zoning Board of Appeals, and to allow him to move off the island, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None offered. Thanks, Bob.
And a different way of saying he got voted off the island. Right?
Oh, that just sounded wrong. Good luck, Bob. Resignation from the Community Rec Commission.
Jim,
I'm sorry. Would you?
I'm just waiting for direction. That's all.
Yeah.
Out of line here.
Would you introduce that, please?
I'd like to accept the resignation of Matt Wayne as a CRC commissioner. Matt's issue is kids, family, all those things, raising a smaller family, not able to meet a lot of the meetings, and he regrets that he has to do it at this point in time, but he's staying here on the island. We're not going to lose him, but at this point in time, he's going to have to leave the commission.
I'll support the motion.
Okay, moved by Trustee Nelson, seconded by Trustee Budney. Questions, comments among the board? Okay, with none offered. Those in favor of accepting, again with regret, the resignation of Mr. Matt Wayne from the Community Recreation Commission, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None offered. Mr. O'Connor, did you have a comment?
The question, I'm presuming since Mr. Wayne's term runs through April 2019 that the commission will be coming forward with a recommendation to bring somebody new on board?
Presumably.
Well,
we have
add
applications?
There's a little caveat here that we are moving for approval to have a commission of 7. So at this point in time,
it would not be prudent to be advertising
Right.
for positions that may not be there.
Right.
Got it.
Right. So the 7 that we have now, one of them is quite ill, and I don't know, how much help she can serve.
Don't say the word. Don't say anything else.
So we have 7 right now. We met 24th. We had our first meeting with Chad as chair, and it went, I thought, extremely well. I never get any feedback from anybody, so I assume everything's okay. If it's not, just please talk to me. And, we're kind of restructuring the commission, and we're doing the right thing. And Kim, thank you so much for leading the charges.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Nelson. With that. Yeah.
A board of 7, does that include you? Or?
Dale, can you answer that question for me?
Yes, it does.
So then we actually have 8.
No.
Yeah, there's 7.
With you, we keep an odd number.
No, but that means that with the 7 that were there, I didn't count myself last Thursday. Sounds like there's 8. Am I right or wrong?
Yeah.
You need
So,
the odd vote.
well, you want to get down to that, and they're working on that. So
maybe by attrition, but I want her to live and have a great life.
Jim.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
Did we vote on this yet? No. We got sidetracked. Okay. Why am I so easily sidetracked tonight? Okay. With those in favor of accepting the resignation of Mr. Matt Wayne from the Community Recreation Commission, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None offered. Matt, good luck. He just got married and got a baby girl, and he's busy.
Got his hands full.
Good for him. All right.
Yep.
With that, completing our action items, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. I'll keep it short tonight. We had our Election Commission meeting prior to this meeting. We have a full slate of election workers. We're very happy for all the people who came out and filled out applications. We have some youths. And so we're going to have a nice balance in each of the precincts, so I think that's going to go well. If you are one of our election workers, you will be notified of the training dates, and we look forward to seeing you there. Just one other quick one is tomorrow is the close of voter registration for this coming election. So if you are interested in voting in the November election anywhere in the state of Michigan, actually, make sure that you are registered to vote by tomorrow. And absentee voter ballot applications are available through the clerk's office. And so if you think you will be out of town on Election Day and you want your vote to be heard, contact our office. They will send you an application for an absentee ballot, or you can come down to the hall and make the application in person. There will be one day that we are open on Saturday, the Saturday prior to the election. I believe we are open from 9 until 2. And you are able to come in and actually vote a ballot in Township Hall at that occasion. If you feel that you have someone in your family who will not be able to make it to the polls or to Township Hall, please do contact us as soon as possible, because we have been known to dispatch the deputy clerk or the clerk, myself, to the home of the voter to make sure that they have access and the ability to vote. And that's the clerk's report for today.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Mr. Treasurer.
Thank you. Treasurer's report: the balance of the numerous Grosse Ile, of the numerous Grosse Ile Township accounts at the end of August 2017 totaled $16,146,656. These accounts generated an interest income of $5,644 and some change, which is a little better. It's about 0.64%. You heard that right. It was 0.64%. Details of this information is available online on my website. The 2017 summer tax bills were due Wednesday, September the 14th. Payments for the 2017 tax bills can be made, however, a 2% at the Township Hall, by the way. However, a 2% late fee will be added to the base tax, and this will amount with an additional 1% per month at the close of the month. Late payments can be made at our office or in our drop box out front, by mail, or online at grosseile.com. The bank and the credit union will not accept late tax payments. Further information is needed regarding the late tax amounts. Please call Annette, extension 222 or 223, or look on my website, grosseile.com. To date, we've collected $12,361,725 in summer taxes, which is 95% of the total tax roll. The distribution is as follows. School collections was $2,847,926. Wayne County, it's $6,862,619. And the township gets of that $2,651,180. The total distribution to will be made out throughout the years to all of the entities that receive those taxes. We are the entity that just collects. The Commerce Park Commission will have a meeting on the 23rd of this month. I believe we've got a planned study session half hour prior to our meeting. Our meeting starts at 7 o'clock, and I have nothing further.
Thank you, Mr. Treasurer. We'll move on to trustee reports, and with Mr. Budney.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Tomorrow we have our DPS meeting. Starts at 7 o'clock. And the meeting will start with a public discussion about the roads. So that always seems to be a hot topic everywhere but in Township Hall. So I encourage everybody, please, we want to know what you want to do with the roads, what roads you want to be done, what your thoughts are regarding the roads. We want that input, and we're going to have the public session tomorrow. We will be continuing to have more sessions after that, but the first one is tomorrow, 7 o'clock. Please, right here in this room, please be here. And to my knowledge, no ZBA meeting this month. That's it.
I just want to add to that. You should try to attend that because you'll be able to get to listen to me rant and rave again.
I don't have to come to a meeting for that.
Yes.
And yes, he will. I guarantee you, he will do that. But we want to hear you guys rant and rave too. We want to hear what you have to say. So please show up.
One thing, the water this time is not going to be inside this millage because the water is already done.
There's no talk of millage yet. We want to look at projects. It's strictly roads. That is correct. Our last millage that we asked for was a combination of roads and water mains. Well, we've done the East River water main. We will be doing, hopefully, the West River water main next year. So that will not be part of it anymore. It'll strictly be roads. That's it.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Budney. Mr. Bletcher.
I have two, Mr. Supervisor. I sit on the Open Space Greenways Commission. We have 3 properties that are presently under consideration. We're in active discussions with 2 of the property owners who are interested in selling, and we're exploring with a 3rd property owner who may be interested in selling that will help us with one of our special projects, complete a loop trail. We also have Dump the Junk coming this weekend. Go to the website for the information. Times are Saturday and Sunday, 9 to 3 at the DPS building on Grow Road. Please, no hazardous waste, no railroad ties. I'm going to ask Mr. Clark to come to the podium, and he will tell you it's probably 9 to 4. Come on up, Woody.
I think he just did.
Okay, Woody Clark, Park Lane. Yeah, Dump the Junk, 9 to 4. No hazardous waste, no paint, all that junk goes over to North Line, and they're from 8 to 2. And don't test them and bring it at 8:25 because they'll be saying no. So you be there on time over there, and don't say you bring it in to us at 3:45. I'll lock the door on you. I don't care.
Mr. Clark had a question. Mr. Clark, computer monitors, electronics, leave that Riverview or Wayne County. Got it.
Take hazardous waste is over at
Microphone.
Thank you, Mr. Clark.
Second report, Mr. Supervisor, is with the police department. Last month, we drove 19,520 miles, answered 1,026 calls, took 65 complaints, made 11 arrests, including 2 felony arrests, and issued 204 verbal warnings while on patrol. Officers also attended mental health first aid. 3 officers did that, and the emergency vehicle operations training was 2 officers. I'm also pleased to announce that the hiring process and timeline is in place. We expect to be making an offer the last week of September with an ultimate hire date of December 4, 2017. Detective Sergeant Relic will be retiring 2 weeks later, so we're hoping to have somebody in place where we can cut down on overtime and any costs. As our Chief Financial Officer, Ann Darsnick, noted, last year we did have people coming in that were replacing retirees, and they have a 3-month program where they do a ride-along unless they're shown to be proficient. We have to have that as a training period, and we're looking at 4 weeks of that would be for a certified officer. So we're hoping to have a new officer on the road with a minimal amount of overtime sometime in the first week of March 2018. I'd also indicate that we're going to have an open house this Sunday from 4 to 6 p.m. It's October 15th. Public Safety Building, 24525 Meridian. We're going to have static displays, presentations. You'll have a chance to meet and talk with some of the officers. Inviting everybody to come down and attend, see what we do to help the community, keep the community not only safe, but healthy. As noted earlier, 95% of the first responders on call for medical emergencies are police officers. We want you to come and get to know us and see what we can do for you. And as always, our meeting is the second Tuesday of the month at 7 p.m. Again, Public Safety Building, and the entire public is welcome. Come on down to the open house. It's 2 hours, 4 to 6. Get a chance to meet some of the people that you see that serve the township so well. Please join us. Come on down and have some fun. Bring the kids. They'll have a great time. That's my report.
4-year-old is going to be there. Okay, thank you, Mr. Bletcher. We'll move on to Mr. Molesto.
Trustee Bletcher, I understand you're going to have a silent auction, and the prize will be one free night in the
lockup.
In the lockup. Yeah, breakfast included, right?
Breakfast included.
Yeah, thank you. First off, be back. We'll be having a meeting October 19th, 7:30. Anyone interested, please show up. Be there. I'd like you to know that the work has already started on 2 of the bridges on the bike path for the resealing of the decking. So if you see yellow barrier tape, caution tape, stay on this side of it. Another thing, people, it's that time of year. The deer are active. They're out very early. They're running across the roads. Just check yourself. Watch the shoulders. Be aware. They're not really interested in your headlights. They're going to run out in front of you anyways. So just keep that in mind. It's that time of year, and it just happens. We have no control over that. Second of all, fire department, volunteer fire department, they performed a water rescue, open water rescue last night about 7 o'clock. I'm going to ask Fire Marshal Russ Beaudry to just come up and give us a brief description of what took place and names of the department that partook in the rescue. Young man was very, very lucky that he was going into hypothermia, which is he could have lost him very, very easily. But our fire department made the rescue. So Russ, if you'll just give us a brief synopsis of what took place.
Last night, our police department got a call from Gibraltar Police Department requesting assistance. They had a man whose boat had capsized in Lake Erie, somewhere between the Detroit Light and Point Muley. They were able to talk to him on the phone, and from that information, they were able to get his compass coordinates roughly where he was at. Gibraltar didn't have any means or ways to get out to get him. They did contact the Coast Guard, but the Coast Guard was an hour out. So they asked, could we help them? Our fire department responded, and one of our officers, AJ, used to work with the DNR. Once he plugged in the coordinates, he realized the best place for us to launch our rescue boat would have been the Point Muley DNR launch, and he kind of told us from that point where to go to look for this individual. It was getting dark quick, and to try to find a man in the water, in the dark, between the Detroit Light and Point Muley is like a needle in a haystack. The one thing the guy did good is he had a fully charged cell phone that was waterproof. He was able to stay on the phone with our dispatcher and say, I can kind of see a boat coming. He was looking. He was able to talk him a little bit, and then once our boat got close, he was able to turn on his flashlight on his cell phone so we could spot him in the water. Our guys were there. He was a Groseal citizen. His boat was capsized. It did go to the bottom, and he was treading water. All in all, he was in the water for just under an hour. He was hypothermic. Very lucky individual. This guy was very lucky. We brought our ambulance with us. We brought our boats. We took him in our ambulance, and we transported him to South Shore or Beaumont to Trenton Hospital. And he's okay today. So our guys performed flawlessly. I was very proud of my men. They did a wonderful job. They located him. They got him in. We transported. We did it all. Gibraltar had no one that they could send us, and they had no means to get him. So if they had not made that phone call, he might still be treading water out there.
Or not.
Or not, yes. Very lucky. So
He did have a. You said he did have a life vest on.
he did have a life vest. He did that right. And he had a waterproof cell phone with a full battery. So we were very lucky to find
So
him.
the PFD does make a
Makes a big
personal
difference.
flotation device.
He was very cold.
Does make a difference.
Talking with the dispatcher, they could tell his voice was getting shallower and shallower. His breathing was slowing down. He was shivering. It was getting to the point where we needed to find him quick. And again, it's a needle in a haystack at night out there. We
Did
were
you
very
use
lucky.
the airboat?
Not the airboat. We were able to use the aluminum boat. It was quicker.
Okay.
The airboat's better on the ice, and this boat we were able to launch close by, plus the police boat. We were able to use both,
Oh, excellent.
and both boats came upon him at the same time. Yes.
Didn't you share with me that just about the time that you arrived on the scene, the Coast Guard helicopter showed up?
The Coast Guard helicopter was just showing up, but they never put on their spotlight. They may have been using their infrared, but everybody kind of came together all at the same time. And it worked out for him. Worked out very well.
You know, we wonder why. We don't wonder why. We know why we support our fire department and our police department. And it's actions like that, saving lives of our residents, or anyone for that matter, you really make the difference, guys.
Thank you very much.
I think
Thank you,
from
Russ.
the board and everybody here, take it back to your troops. Well done.
I appreciate it.
Thank you, Russ.
Thank you.
And that's all I have.
Thanks, Tom. Okay, and Mr. Nelson.
I've been talking a lot tonight, so I'm going to let Kim come up here and bring you up to date on what's happening with rec. And if Chad wants anything, you can fill in for Chad.
Good evening, Mr. Supervisor and Township Board. Just a couple of things coming up in the Recreation Department. First off, this Wednesday, October 11th, is our senior lunch. I did bring this up at the community recreation meeting as well. We are calling all seniors. If you're interested in meeting at Centennial Farm, the lunch is at 12:30. And Smokies is doing all the food, kielbasa, chicken, sauerkraut, your October good foods. So call the rec department at 734-675-2364 if you're interested. Tickets are $10. We do have live entertainment. We're averaging about 25 to 30 seniors. I would like to get that up to 50, 60. There's more seniors that need to get out. This is a great place to start, meet people, find out what's going on in the community. So I encourage all of our seniors to come. I will be there serving food. Ann's going to be there with me as well. Some of the administrators will be there if you have questions for us as well. So that's the first thing coming up. Also, this coming Saturday, October 14th from 1 to 4 is the Fall Fest at the farm. This is for family, friends, grandparents, kids. It's $5 at the door at the farm. We have hay rides, we have face painting, we have donuts, cider, hay rides, all that fun stuff. So if you have nothing to do this Saturday, come to the farm. It's going to be a nice fall event. The weather this weekend, it's calling for 75 and sun, so can't beat that. I check the weather daily. So also happening in the rec department, just coming up at the end of the month is the Hooray for Halloween costume parade. I know that's been a big event. I haven't seen it yet, so I'm excited to learn about some of these fall events. That is October 28th at 10:15. And the lineup is at the high school. And then Trick or Treat on Macomb Street is Saturday, October 28th from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. So those are some of the fun events coming up in recreation. Also, there is a change. There was an error in the channels for the first annual Winterfest. I did want to make a note of that so people can start planning. That is going to be Saturday, February 24th from 4 to 7. And I believe it was listed from 6 to 9. So it's gets dark at 6 o'clock. So we pushed that back. Also, the next Recreation Commission meeting is October 26th. The Recreation Commission voted that we will start all of our meetings at 7 p.m. So if you are planning to attend, please make that time change. They were listed, I believe, at 7:30, so we did move that back to 7 p.m. And also, last but not least, and I hope that
Are you going to make her suffer?
How long, Dale?
buttons and everything else.
There we go. Woo. Is that it? That was tricky.
I know this seems a little.
Zoom in.
Okay. The reason that I'm doing this, hopefully it'll stay with me. There it went. Is I know there's a lot of talk about the golf course. So the reason I posted the weather, at least for tonight, is encouraging our residents to still. I'm gonna keep this golf course open as long as our weather stays with us. We have a lot of specials going on. And I'm going to announce those tonight because I'm encouraging. The course is in great shape. My crew's been keeping up with that, and the weather's cooperating with us. So I know a lot of people, kind of put the clubs away. People are putting their boats away. But when you have stuff like this, start thinking about what you want to do because in a month from now, it's going to be snowing. So just a couple of specials that we're offering for the fall. The regular golfer is $10. Our senior golfers are $8. And then I'm running a student special, and this goes out to all of our students, whether you're in Trenton or Grosse Ile. If you show us your student ID, it's $5 to walk 9 holes after school. I don't know where you can go and walk 9 holes for $5. And then also our senior Sundays is 65 and older. And I'll let you slide a little bit if you come in on Sunday. You can walk 9 holes for $7. So just keep that on the back burner. And again, we're really fortunate to have the weather. Our events are coming up the pipeline. So you got to partake in that because the bad weather's coming. So, and also the pro shop hours are 7:30 in the morning till 7 at night. So the range is still open. We're still, everyone said keep the pool open, but unfortunately I couldn't do that. So, and that's all I have for this evening. Any questions?
Kim, we're going into budget in about 4 months, and my understanding is that the irrigation system at the golf course is going to need some strong consideration. I'm hoping that your commission can come up with some ideas about what we can and cannot do with that. I know Mr. Nelson's been involved in an investigation or analysis of what we can do, but I'm hoping that we can have something with improving golf. It sounds like you've got a plan involved in that, but I'm also looking at irrigation system and perhaps even the fences at Centennial Farm. Those are 3 things that I'd like to see the commission come up with some ideas and some work on. So if you could take that back to your commission, I think that we could have some answers to those questions in the next couple of months, please.
And we are working on those. And again, there was an evaluation that was started on the irrigation by the company that we work with. And I explained to our commission at the last meeting that the fellow that was doing that had some medical issues. So, we've reached out to him, and we need that. And I just kind of said we need it now because of the budget process and where are we. And I can't figure things out without a number. So I'm hoping to have that by the next commission meeting. So
I'm looking at the amount of work that you do with Paint the Town Red, the pool, the golf course, Centennial Farm, and that. I've had the pleasure of sitting on both the DPS commission many, many years ago, as well as the police commission now, and I see the involvement that the commissions have. I'd like to see what your commission is able to help you with on this. That would be really appreciated.
And we are working together on some things as well. So,
good. Thank you.
Yep.
Thanks, Kim.
Thank you, Mr. Farrell. And complete your report.
I'm done.
And over to Township Attorney, anything we need to be? Thank you, Mr. Assorti. Township Manager, Mr. Riem. I guess it's up to me. Okay. Just a few odds and ends. Paint the Town Red, we just glossed over. It was a blast, and I've got to work on the firefighters. Don't have your golf outing the same day as Angela and Kim are putting together. So we'll work on that for next year. But having perfect weather really helped. The firefighters golf outing was a great time. I wish I had a great golf game, but it was a good time. And Paint the Town Red went the whole weekend. Angela and Kim are both looking at ways to expand it, improve it next year. So we'll keep looking for bigger and better things, but gosh, this was a great place to be that weekend. Let's see. Grape Expectations. I was trying to push this out on Facebook. Okay, what is Grape Expectations? It's the guidance center, the Kids Advocacy Center, and my wife mostly, but a big part of that. And I bring this up because Grosse Ile was so well represented that evening. It's a fundraiser for the Kids Talk Advocacy Center. It's a venue where kids, and that covers a broad spectrum, but children that you would not want facing a prosecutor, facing a defense attorney in court, are giving testimony in a safe, secure, home-like environment. It's agreed to by both parties, and it saves a traumatized child. Some of these are kids that have been human trafficking, violent family disputes, but it keeps them out of the courtroom. The testimony is accepted by both parties, and a traumatized child does not need to be traumatized anymore by the unpleasant environment in the courtroom. But I was just so proud of how many Grosse Ile residents were donating to this, how many filled the room. It was, I knew almost everybody there. So to the residents who are supporting it, it was great to see you all there. If you've never been down to the Colony Club down in Detroit, it's one of those hidden gems that you walk in and look around. Has this always been here? It's been there since about 1927. Anyway, beautiful venue. It was a great event. And I was just proud of Grosse Ile's participation in this. It's all downriver, but Grosse Ile had by far the biggest presentation. While I was there, Mayor Stack was also there and her husband, and got a little more information on the McLouth, on the transaction that came across. We were initially taken by surprise when we got the results, but it was all done under confidentiality with Wayne County and Trenton City Council. I don't know how that happens. I didn't need to know. All I know is probably the articles you've read in the news and the Free Press are accurate. And with my discussion with Mayor Stack, it was the best option that the city of Trenton had. And hopefully, I mean, there's $1 million on the line for Crown Enterprises to bring that structure down in the next 2 years. So hopefully progress is being made. We'll see. Again, I don't have a seat at the table, but they're trying to keep us informed, and things are moving. Wish us luck, folks. I am wearing my pink tie. October's Breast Awareness Month. 1 woman in 8th will develop it. Hopefully with early detection, it can be taken care of right away. About 10% of the cases actually occur in men, too. So if things are feeling a little bit weird, guys, it's up. You get checked also. But it killed my mom. It's important to me, and it should be important to every woman in the group. I think the federal health, I'm looking for a finger to point, it was recommending don't start before age 50. If you have a history in your family, you can't start soon enough. It's that important, and it could get you. And okay, Wayne County Bridge. More Wayne County stuff. We've been trying to post the bridge inspection schedules. The plan, and I don't know, I'm only going to give you what I know is the official release from Wayne County. It's their bridge. There's speculation like crazy out there, but what you need to know is Thursday, October 19th, from 9 until 3, the bridge is going to be closed for inspection. So they're working around or trying to work around our rush hour times. I talked to Jennifer Whitaker, who is our current our new DTE rep, to make sure we don't have a vessel scheduled to make a delivery at that time, because that would booger everything up. So she's working with her fuels people to make sure we don't have a vessel conflict with this. But our first bridge closure for inspection, Thursday, October the 19th from 9 till 3. Next one will be November 16th, followed by December 14th. But I'll give them to you one at a time. The next one is October 19th. So I will put it out on Gross Seal Connect. And another thing of more immediate concern, tomorrow, October 10th at 10 o'clock in the morning, BASF over in Wyandotte is going to be conducting an evacuation drill. There will probably be loudspeakers and sirens and noises towards the north end of the island. What will impact you, though, is Biddle Avenue between Alkali and Goddard Road will be closed from 10 to 11 because that's their evacuation route, and they don't need vehicles squashing people who are following the evacuation route. So you've been warned. Biddle will be closed. That's all north of downtown Wyandotte, if you don't know where Alkali is. But from Alkali to Goddard, closed from 10 to 11. Roads will be closed. The business have been notified. And we'll get that out of push notification also for your planning purposes. And that concludes our report. That'll open up to public comment. You know the rules. 3 minutes. Introduce yourself. Open to public comment. Mrs. Walker.
Seeing is going to be a 360 video of our soft launch. Going real well when I was sitting there. Anyways, what I'm going to try to tell you is I did a video, and it's a 360 video. You say, what is a 360 video? And here it is. It's something that you can turn. And I don't know if you guys have seen this. It's kind of cool technology. It's new. I'm hoping that someday you'll have it in here. So when you're pointing one way, you can see the whole area. It's really kind of cool. So I thought I'd promote our soft launch, as I showed Kim, and I told you, just take a look at it. But as you're sitting here, you just turn your finger, and you can see all over. You can see people when they're standing, and it's a really cool thing. And I think we had about 470 views already. So people are kind of into it. It's something new. I don't know if you guys have heard about it, but something to promote, because we are going to keep the launch open for another week or two. Weather permitting, and it's a beautiful time, and hopefully no one will have problems. And thank you to the fire department. That was wonderful, because we're always preaching about hypothermia at We Kayak. We don't want to have that problem. So anyways, that's the cool thing on that. And secondly, I listened intently to the losses this year. And I remember being in the study session where we talked about the budget and the projected losses. And it turned out that your actual loss was 32.85% more than you had planned on. So when you start adding these numbers up, and it's kind of like anything, 1 year you lose, another year, in 3 years you lost you're projecting to lose $750,000, because next year you're projecting to lose $230. That's a lot of money. And if we hadn't saved the money over the other years, you know how you're talking about, well, we don't want to have profit. Well, if you didn't have the profit in the previous years, you wouldn't have this cushion. So I don't know what's going to change, but I sincerely hope, and I'm sure most of the residents do, that these losses are going to be minimized and eliminated, and that is up to the board and the management to handle that. But it's really concerning. $750,000 in 3 years, that's a lot of losses. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Walker. Other comment? Mr. Clark.
Woody Clark, Park Lane. Legal fees for the last 3 meetings. You don't have the last 3?
I reported last time.
No, you didn't. I didn't hear you.
No, I did.
Tell me, Woody, I'll give it to you.
Good.
It's like $3,900 the last one.
Yeah, I'll call you.
We have them for this meeting?
Yeah, we do have some for the, I guess we'll find the page. We had, for this meeting, nothing to Thomas Sorty, but we had 1,237 to Pepper Hamilton for the MDEQ negotiations, and we have 1,155 to Tim Galligan. He's working on a bond return from an old project.
Okay. People wearing black out there, no phone, no lights or anything with them. They want to get hit, I guess, because they're wearing it. I haven't got my numbers this month, so you can keep on wearing black out there.
Not sure how to interpret that, Mr. Clark, but
if they have to interpret that, they got a problem walking on the street.
about your numbers, I'm just not. But anyway, I'm sorry, I'm not taking up your time. Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Okay. Open space money. You said 475,000. We got 285 on our list.
Yeah, and the other one was, well, it's almost about 500,000, 525 for the purchase portion.
I'm talking about what we got active money right now.
You're probably right. I have the two combined in this report.
Okay, so it's 285 approximately?
Yeah.
Okay, here's something really quick, not long. It's a saying, income tax return. During the recent press conference, a reporter at MSNBC hollered from the press corps, "Where's the president keeping hiding his money tax returns?" Press secretary said, actually responded, "We have found a secure place, and I'm certain they won't be found." And just where is that? The reporter asked. Ms. Sanders agreed. They're underneath Obama's college records, his passport application, his immigration status as a student, his funding source to pay this college, the college records, and his selective service recognition. Next question. Thank you.
Woody, real quick. Dump to junk. Asphalt shingles.
No. No asphalt on the shingles.
Thank you. Oh, thank you.
Okay. Please don't tell me where you want to, where can I take it? The end of the word is shine.
Anyway, for the open question, last month's legal fees were $3,309. We reported it in absentia, Mr. Clark. Any other? Anybody want to top that, Mr. Zalasko?
Bob Zalasko, Blauvelt. I wonder if I could get a little clarification. I sat in the study session last 2 weeks ago. When I left that study session, the board had agreed to have and I don't want to get into the intricacies of the selection process here. They agreed to have a open session interview meeting, and the timing was prior to this October 9th meeting. And everybody on the board approved that, and that was what we left the room with. And then you come here tonight, and you have a completely different agenda. How does that happen?
Okay, I'll put that as a public comment, the one I'll answer, because I'm probably the primary on the agenda. We had a consensus, but we didn't have a vote. Okay, we can't vote in a study session. So that was a study session. We had a consensus, and we thought an evaluation. We discussed this, and we stayed open. We did not go to closed session this evening. We stayed open in a discussion, and we agreed on a way forward. We're going to meet again the next time the full board is together and have another evaluation session. What was the term we decided on? And that we were going to have the next meeting where everyone on the board was going to be present.
Right. Whenever that everybody be present at it.
And we'll have we're going to do an event. We changed our course of action as a board. I don't know what you expected,
Well,
but we changed our course of action. Mrs.
Go ahead.
She took the notes.
Yeah, I did take the notes, and then I gave them to Sharon. What it boils down to is that the board is trying to find a way forward. We had an evaluation of all our consultants. When it came to the legal representation, I think a number of factors contributed to the board getting into its own way with different emotions, feelings, etc. And we got ahead of ourselves. We never came to a consensus whether or not we really needed to replace or change our legal representation. And so what we agreed to tonight, we met in open session starting at 6:36. We made a motion to go into closed session for the purposes of having an evaluation of our township legal services. It was seconded. In the discussion of that motion, it was decided that we had, as a board, gotten ahead of ourselves, that we didn't even have a consensus on the standard or expectation of our legal representation. And so in the end, the motion to go into closed session was withdrawn. And the board agreed that on November 13th, when the full board will be able to meet again, we will again put on the agenda a closed session for purposes of evaluating our legal representation, which is allowed under the Open Meetings Act, which will allow the board to have a one-on-one conversation with our legal representation, ask questions, ask about where we stand on various cases, find out from management if there have been any real complaints, anything beyond hearsay, and that we can have that confidential conversation with our existing attorney. What will happen after that study session, I think, depends a lot on
Is that a study session or a closed session?
I meant closed session, Bob. I'm sorry. What happens after that is really contingent on the results of that conversation. And so we had some questions tonight about, do we go forward with interviews? Do we do? And I think we all agreed that, we had gotten a little ahead, that we don't do those steps until we've made a decision. And no one has come forward to even say that we need to replace our legal representation. And we looked at all of our township consultants in these study sessions that you attended. We reviewed everything from our auditor to our planning department to our planning consultant to our engineer. And in all of those cases, we looked closely at the proposals and decided that we were going to stay with our current provider. I can't really explain why it kind of went off the rails in this regard, but we're trying to catch it back, follow procedure. We did have some procedural discussions tonight. Any board member, just for the public record, any township board member, any staff member, administration member can put an item on the township agenda. The agenda is not a final agenda till it is voted on by the board. I know with you I'm preaching to the choir. You know this as well as I do. But a lot of people in the public aren't totally aware of how the process goes. And so basically also what's written on the agenda until the motion is actually made, any motion that we receive in our packets, anything that's written on the agenda, until it is read into the record the way it is read into the record, that language is wide open. So the document that we receive, for instance, as our agenda, until we vote to approve it, we can amend it, we can add, we can delete. Even prior to our closed session, you have to vote to go to closed session. So the board members each had a turn to discuss whether or not they would vote for or against the motion. And in the end, we decided the consensus was it would be unproductive to do so, and that but we've come to a middle ground where we're going to have that evaluation on November 13th. So that's basically the process that took place.
Would you at that time be performing a vote in a closed session meeting?
No.
Okay.
One, we cannot vote in a closed session.
Okay.
And if we did have a consensus or we wanted to make a vote, we would have to come out of closed session and go back into open session.
So after your 13th meeting, we will be able to bring this thing forward, and then it will be eventually come in front of the board, and it will be an open board. Everyone participates.
So just so to be clear, we have options. The board is not constrained. We have the opportunity to set any number of parameters. We can stay with the current representation. We can ask for evaluation, a follow-up, a 30, 60, 90-day follow-up. We can decide we want to change representation. We can go out for a request for proposals, a request for quotes.
That's fine.
So we have, it really is up to the board to make those decisions. And to the best of our ability, we've agreed we're going to do all this in public and
Correct.
try to have these conversations in public.
Okay.
So that you know what's going on.
Thank you for that.
I would like to add to that, Madam Clerk, that when Mr. Nelson and I came on board last November, we asked the board as a group to sit down and look at all of our major consultants, and that would again be the engineering and the planner and the auditor. And we took the easy ones first because they are the ones that have services that impact the township, but not to the extent that the township attorney does. This is not meant to be any reflection at all on the work of the township attorney, but he has a difficult job. He defends the township against the lawsuits. He represents the township in the 33rd District Court, and he gives us legal advice on not only defending lawsuits, prosecuting lawsuits, but how to stay out of lawsuits. And it was very important with both Mr. Nelson and I to get our arms wrapped around what he does and how well it's done. And this is not a reflection in any way, shape, or form, anything that Mr. Assorti does. I happen to think that he does a very good job with all the circumstances, but that's my personal editorial. I do believe that this is something that the entire board wants to understand and wants to make a good decision on. I would reiterate, in the last, I believe the last 30 years, we've only had 3 township attorneys, 35 years. I think Tom Misko, Bill Look, and now Tom Assorti. And that's a rather good record. And we're looking forward to making sure that we are getting the best bang for our dollar, and that's part of the process. So this should not be construed in any way, shape, or form as anything other than educational and getting our arms wrapped around the job of what the attorney does, as well as making sure the township's getting the biggest bang for its dollar. That's where I come from.
Okay, thank you. And again, as I stated earlier, I have no intentions of discussing the selection process, nor would I ever be up here to insult Mr. Assorti or anybody else. My issue was, how did this evolve to this point? I missed the meeting because I thought it was closed session. It's open session. But Uto, I think you've given me a recap of what took place in that meeting, so I don't have to ask for any meeting minutes. There was a study session prior to this one, if I may, where we talked about a financial review, and the board talked about it in detail. And at that time, I can remember it was the request of the board to select 3 houses to come in for an interviewing process to select someone to proceed with that program. Can anybody tell me where that went?
Drawing a blank.
We did have a review.
We did have that meeting, and we moved on, and to this point, nothing has been done.
Okay, so we have to finish that.
It hasn't dropped off the radar.
We have to finish that one.
Yes,
no,
we do.
We had the Plant Moran in. And
they were going to get us some information. I don't know if they did. We hadn't heard anything more since then.
Okay. But Plant Moran is not the selected house at this time.
Said that they would help us out.
Okay. Okay, so we will stay tuned for completion of that one.
They had some historical data.
Mm-hmm.
It was
Because they had
much
been through it
cheaper to
before.
get that information from them.
Right.
Okay.
And it is also good timing in that we've just had the audit completed, and as Ann reviewed tonight, this is a good time for us to look at where we are with the audit, and then we can go forward with, I think it was Cooper's, Jim, if I'm right? And we were looking at 3 altogether, Plant Moran and Cooper's, and then...
Well, I don't think that we actually decided on who the 3 would be. I mean, those were names that were thrown out, and 3
Price
people
Waterhouse
that
and a
do
couple
it.
of-
Yeah,
right.
there's a number of them.
Okay. All right. So we can look forward to seeing completion of that one as it comes about. Okay. All right. Anybody else want to make a comment? Maybe I'll go sit down.
Well, no, actually, I want to address you, Bob. I want to thank you for coming up and asking that question. I want to also thank you for being one of the few members of the public who keep coming to our meetings, who hold us accountable, and who, when you do have a question, do not hesitate to come forward to ask it. And I think that is so very important, and I want to tell you how much I appreciate that.
Well, thank you. And with that, may I respond by complimenting you? I voted for 7 people up here. I am always eager to hear from everyone up here, no matter what you have to say. Everybody up here plays an important part as a team in this board, and I'm anxious to hear and see them all involved in the decision-making process and also hear what they have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Zalasko. Final comments from the public president. Mr. Walker.
I'm going to make a couple comments regarding what Mr. Clark said about, I'm going to say 3 or 4 meetings back. But before then, I'd like to make a comment regarding the accounting firm PricewaterhouseCoopers. I spent my public accounting days with what is now Pricewaterhouse. It was Coopers and Lybrand when I was there. When Price and Coopers merged, virtually everybody refers to the combined firm as Price or Price Waterhouse. It was refreshing to hear somebody make reference to Coopers. I hardly ever hear that.
Why we're here.
Now, regarding Woody, 3 or 4 meetings back, he asked about whether Smokies was current paying their bills. And I don't remember what the answer was, but I am going to toss that question out right now for an update. Where does Smoky stand in making all of the...
Okay, one more time. Public comment, not Q&A. Do we have that answer available?
They are paid through October for their monthly rent.
Okay. Are there any other charges they're responsible for that they may or may not have been billed for or paid?
Again, I gave you one, okay? Public comment. You have a concern about other charges. They're in negotiations right now. I don't know where those stand. And if nobody has any definitive information to give, we'll just let that go as an open question, and we'll try to find an answer for you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Walker. Other comments from the public present? No other public present. So with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by Trustee Buddy, seconded by? By Clerk O'Connor. Those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. We'll call the meeting adjourned at 9:20 p.m. Thanks for coming, everyone. We're still working for you.